Okay, Matt?
Will.
Will? Yes, after that one, look down, you can run name on the paper. Hey, Will, go.
Alright, so hello, I'm Wil Tottori, and I decided to present my POL in the form of a tree. More so, a tree of knowledge. And you'll notice that each one of these bubbles are different sizes to represent ideas and things that I ascertained. And each idea is bigger than another, and each one has its own goal, but they're all part of the same tree. So let's start with my career goals. I'd like to go into a field of political science. Now the difference between being a political scientist and a politician are, politicians are more the ones who make the big decisions, but where they get their decision information from are the political scientists. The political scientists study the ideology, the methodology of all of the governments in the world, and they try to find a concise niche, and they help to solve big problems that the countries are facing. So here are just some of the degrees and things I'll need. And I plan to get it from Wil University because they're well known for the political science program as well as their law program. And the professors there are very excellent. Most of them have written numerous novels and have achieved a lot in their lives. So. Now originally, I wanted to be a corporate lawyer, which is why I joined speech and debate in my freshman year. And I have a total of 3 years of experience stacked up in speech and debate. 2 years sophomore and freshman year, and 1 year prior I went in my spare time as a timekeeper. And speech and debate really taught me a lot. It taught me excellent speaking skills, well not excellent, but better speaking skills than what I have. And I was so bent on becoming a corporate lawyer because I wanted to help the businesses, which would in turn help all of the employees that work there, help maybe markets do better, and maybe help businesses flourish, which would in turn help the people. But that was until I met with Representative Isaac Choi. Now, we went in his office in Manoa for a small interview regarding political matters and whatnot, and he talked about the problems he was having and how he overcame them. But then after the interview, he asked me, Will, what do you want to do with your life? And I told him I wanted to be a corporate lawyer and my whole plan, and I ran through it. And he sat there patiently and nodded his head. Then he told me, well, Will, there are a lot of lawyers out there. There are a lot of doctors out there. That's mostly from my generation, and that's mostly from your generation. And there's always going to be a large amount of lawyers and doctors. So he asked me, do you want to be just another lawyer or just another doctor? Or do you want to be something greater, something bigger than yourself? Do you want to change the system instead of just patching it? Do you want to make a difference? And although it was subtle, really hit me in my core beliefs because I was so convinced that I needed to be a corporate lawyer. I was planning to go to law school for that. But he changed my mind. Over the next couple months, I thought about it. I thought about why I would want to become a political scientist and then perhaps later a politician. And I saw, I knew I could make a difference as a corporate lawyer, but I couldn't make a bigger splash than if I was a politician or a political scientist. And I believe most politicians take the job knowing that they'll receive as much ridicule and criticism as they will adoration with their decisions. It's a very hard and it's a very difficult job to take. But I'm up to the task. So I'm going to just demonstrate some of the artifacts I got over the years. Now, this is the mock. We had a mock trial in MPX for Mark Twain, and I played a defense attorney. And during the trial, it was much more intense than what you see on TV. It's a very different experience that it can't be described very easily. It has to be seen to be believed, sort of ideal. It kept me on my feet, and it gave me a good judicial understanding of the law system at the time. And it was very, I'm not going to say it was easy, but when we made the case briefs, I initially thought it would be easy, it'd be simple. We had what we had to do, we could just present it and we win. But our opponents also have a lot of case briefs. They also have a lot of documents that they have. And well, when one of the members, Alkai Hines, he made a rebuttal that completely crushed one of our statements, like stamped it into the ground and completely blew out what we were going to do. So the other attorneys and I were trying to figure out what to do. And so I went up, and I guess you could say I saved the day, but I moreover gave a rebuttal to the speech, proving his innocence, and initially we won the case because of that. So I guess I'll move on to our Panama Canal project. I played more of an informant in this role, and we were studying the ideal of imperialism, about overthrowing of other countries and what the U.S.'s role in it was. And when I first researched the Panama Canal project, originally they were going to build in Nicaragua. However, one day a letter came in to the White House with this stamp on it of the Nicaraguan volcano erupting. And this was the stamp that changed history, because originally the United States wanted to build in Nicaragua, but they saw there was a lot of seismic activity in the area. There was a lot of volcanic possibilities, and coincidentally that year there was a lot of earthquakes. So they changed their plan completely, turned it around, and built in Panama. So I thought it was so interesting that this small stamp would be so instrumental in causing such a difference in the world. When I wrote this research paper, I wrote it with the intent of taking things from a political perspective. When we studied Japanese internment during World War II, a lot of my classmates took up the ideology of the people, of what they went through and their suffering. But I wanted to look at the political standpoint of it. And I grew to understand more of what the politicians go through nowadays, that they have a lot of problems to deal with, and Lord knows we don't give them enough credit for it. And through my political paper, I looked more in depth into it and the decisions that they had to make. And I guess it moreover gave me a higher understanding of what it meant to be a politician. And the Cinepoem project even deepened my perspective when I chose to play the role of a political negotiator who had been sent over to Vietnam during the war to negotiate peace with the North Vietnamese. But upon arrival, he discovers a large pile of bodies. I'm sorry for the description. And he's just petrified. He's horrified with fear. He's heard stories and accounts of people being murdered over there, and he's seen the paperwork, but he hasn't seen things in his life. He hasn't seen what it really is like, how horrible and gory it is, and he realizes that peace is not a negotiable option. And I suppose that shocking conclusion that is initiated through war is something us, the people, as well as politicians, have to deal with. Moreover, on the lighter side, I was in charge of leading a team called Project Water Capture, where we would build rain catchment systems around campus to catch water and hopefully save a lot of money in the MPI budget. And as a leader, it was very hard to work with some of these members. A lot of them didn't have some of the skill sets I required. So instead, I assigned them to different roles which would suit their strengths. And I built an agenda. I'm sorry, it got cropped out, but I built an agenda which would hit all of the deadlines that I required them to, I needed them to hit. And surprisingly, we hit all of the deadlines weeks in advance before they were due with extreme precision. And I guess as a leader, that just hit me right here, and more so of a pride type of feeling. I suppose I went through a lot of challenges in MPX, and like my friend Sisyphus here from Greek mythology, his punishment was he had to roll a giant boulder up a hill every day, only to, at the end of the day, it would roll back down. And I felt like that for my first year in MPX. When we did our projects and we initially began our work, I felt like I couldn't quite push the boulder up the hill. I couldn't quite finish what I started. And that really bugged me for most of the time I was there. I couldn't finish what I had started. And as a politician, that's a horrible, horrible thing to have. When you say you're going to do something, you don't do it. But if anything, it taught me persistence. That sometimes you have to swim against the flow, no matter how large it is or no matter how difficult it is. And like an upwater salmon, you have to just swim up a river. And you'll notice that the salmon at the top of the waterfall are much larger and they're much stronger than the ones you'll find below. Their scales and faces are all torn and ripped from the experience, but nonetheless, they are stronger from it. And so through my years of MPX, I'd say I've grown much since I first entered it. I entered it with the naive ideology that what I see is all there is to see. But MPX taught me different, taught me more to evolve, think outside of the box. And initially you could say, rise and rise again until lambs become lions. That's from Robin Hood, by the way. And so I initially crossed this border in my mind that stopped me from achieving what I had to achieve. But MPX taught me to go beyond that wall, beyond that limitation that there was. And Albert Einstein put it best when he said, imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is limited. Imagination encircles the world. And so, more so out of thinking outside of the box, I guess you could say, when I looked back, what was beyond the wall, I noticed that my tree of knowledge that I thought was once all there was to see, that once all of the branches that I thought was actually just like a tiny branch in the giant grand scheme of everything. So yeah, thank you.
Will would love to entertain questions.
I would love to, yes.
What aspect of MPX do you think helped you most in your personal growth? Was it the group work or the projects?
I have to say mostly what MPX was all about. MPX doesn't impair limitations in their learning. When you go into a traditional system, you'll find that there's a certain limit you can reach where, like Albert Einstein said, knowledge is limited. In MPX, there is no border, really. We can go as far outside as we want. But I realize that the borders are there for a reason. And to a certain point, you do need the knowledge. But more so importantly, you do need imagination, cheesy as it sounds. And I think that's what a lot of us have forgotten over our years of being skeptical and whatnot. So MPX really brought out that in me that was long forgotten, you could say.
Well, during your experience with the MPX, what qualities do you think you've grown in being a good leader in the team, and what qualities do you think are really good as a member of a group in the team?
Well, as a leader, first you have to be very organized, and you have to realize that the members of your group have limitations as well. They can't. There are certain things they can and cannot do, so you have to assign them to do what they can and what they're best at. So I assume organization is the best for the leadership role. For a member role, I would say it's perfectly fine to question your leader. However, when things have to get done, I would say, put simply, you just have to do them. Hit deadlines when necessary, stay on task, and take breaks every once in a while.
Every team member has limitations, every leader has limitations. What limitations in yourself did you identify, and in over 2 years in doing this kind of work, what did you have to confront that you had to work through or understand that others may lead in those areas?
Okay. Well, as a leader, I first discovered that for my limitations, I make up through my members. That more so, we're not this head leader and group. We're more so all at one level, but we all help each other out where we fall, and we pick each other up at said points. And the biggest problems I faced was probably time management skills. My time management skills were horrible when I first entered MPX. I literally didn't sleep for some days. But over the years, I guess more so it taught me to work more efficiently. And